I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
He's going to break Hastings' world title.
These two go. He's going to do it. His first victory. The World Championship is done. What a race it's been.
Hello and welcome to Silverstone, Northamptonshire for the fourth round of the 2023 Formula SimRacing Academy Championship, a British Grand Prix, brought to you in partnership with VCO eSports. 3 weeks ago in Montreal, Super Venturi's Thomas Smith utilised the two-stop strategy to take his first win in Academy from Grand Effect's Istvan Single, who he now leads in the standings by 3 points. Stan Vlietstra also took his first podium for Geeks Energy Sim Racing, making it two Dutchmen on the podium. My name is Edward Hunter, and with me in the commentary box for the qualifying and the 32-lap race to come is hopefully going to be Darragh Thacker, who is not in just yet, and also our broadcast director, Cas Rietveld. Here, by the way, before we get going, is a look at the championship standings after 3 races completed of the 9 in total. So going into Silverstone, Thomas Smith, as I said, leads by 3 points over Istvan Single for Grand Effect. Giuseppe Saracino, who of course won the first round of the season in Bahrain, is in third on 65 points. Then it is Scott Flack, who had a bit of a difficult round in Montreal, lost a lot of ground in the championship, but he is still in the hunt down in fourth. Then it is House Sonneveld for Geeks Energy in fifth. Daniel Miganov for Valet in sixth. Stan Vlietstra, who I talked about getting that first podium, is in seventh, ahead of Matthias Harvig, the independent driver, of course, down in eighth. Then it is Dano Branfalm ninth, and Sophie Jones rounding out the top 10, both driving for Valet, of course. So anyway, I think somebody has joined us, hopefully. There we go. Is Darragh? Is Darragh joined us?
Good afternoon.
There we go. So, right on time. I haven't introduced it. I'm just about to introduce everyone here. So my name is Edward Hunter, of course. With me in the commentary box is Darragh Thacker and our broadcast director, Cas Rietveld. So Darragh, first off, welcome back to Academy. We've had 3 different winners from the opening 3 rounds, and none of them from pole position, interestingly. In fact, all of our pole sitters thus far have finished in second. No higher, no lower, exactly second, without fail. Are we going to see that streak broken today at Silverstone, or do you think the pole sitter is going to drop from the lead once more?
Well, it's an interesting track, Silverstone, isn't it? Of course, lots of chance for overtaking, lots of positions to be able to change during the race, and I think it'll be difficult to necessarily hold the lead from pole. But again, if you've got the pace, you might be able to carry it through for the entire race. So I think we'll have to wait and see. But it is very interesting little stat.
Absolutely. So as you say, Silverstone, high speed, lots of overtaking opportunities, potentially at the end of Hanger Straight into Stowe with the DRS. Of course, there's that lovely high speed change of direction. Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, who you're going to be very well acquainted with through qualifying, I'm very sure, once we've got that underway. But just to recap the calendar, Silverstone today on the 16th, Imola on the 6th, and then our last 4 races at Spa, Monza, Suzuka, and Sao Paulo will see out the season. So it sounds like we're in the middle of practice at the moment here at Silverstone, of course, in Northamptonshire, and a lovely history at this place, not just, of course, in real life, but also in FSR. It was used last season as well, as we see Thomas Smith, winner of the last round, just squirreling the rear tyres through left field there, and then disappearing, it looked like, before rejoining the track. But Darragh, I love the camera angles here, especially that shot of Copse where you see the heat haze as the car fades into view and then goes into this lovely high-speed S section, which seems like it never ends, but you have to carry so much speed, really, to get the lap time through there. And we're going to see a lot of this in qualifying, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that camera angle as well from Chapel, where you could see the entirety of the Maggots and Beckett's sector there. It's a great camera angle. You can really see all the way through this track, which is, of course, so historic. But has seen a few changes. But yeah, I mean, through qualifying, the cars look absolutely supreme through some of those fast corners, Stowe, Copse, and even on the exit of Luffield yeah, you can really see the car push the exit curb and then try and get its way towards Copse corner. So yeah, the camera angles are fantastic at this track.
Absolutely. So as we see the runners getting ready for qualifying to start immediately, actually. So there we go. It's good timing. But as we see Istvan Single, of course, winner in Barcelona, and Single, I think, is one of the drivers that has really impressed me. Remember, he got pole in Montreal. But like you said, falling to second, beaten by Thomas Smith's superior strategy, he was able to get that extra stop in and essentially undercut. Well, not undercut, but he was able to have fresher tyres at the end and basically breeze past Single. The ground effect didn't really have much of an answer. So ground effect, they got the strategy spot on in Spain, but it definitely felt like they got outfoxed by Super Venturi in Montreal. And not only will Single be looking to get another pole to his name here at Silverstone, but also ground effect need to make sure they stay on their toes, they don't get boxed in. And of course, the advantage that Super Venturi often have is they've got not just Thomas Smith, but Scott Flack, who of course finished 6th here last year when we were racing in Academy. And that makes, of course, him the highest one that's staying on that hasn't moved up to pro. So I think Scott Flack will be looking to impress here. Although I don't see it. There he is. He is on the timing screen, so he's going to set some laps. But Single here is definitely his teammate Nando Marsa, best finish of the season, I think, is 10th back in Barcelona. So ground effect have really only got one car running at the front. Admittedly, it is a very, very strong car in the form of Istvan Single, but it does lead him strategically at a small disadvantage.
It does, yeah. But you know, I mean, there's always chances for the teams, especially if you've got someone so consistent as Single, up in second in the championship, first and second in the last 2 races. So there are some decent points coming in for them. I'm sure they will probably want a couple of drivers fighting at the front, maybe able to help each other out in the closing stages of the races. But as it is, I think Single he's doing very well at the moment on his own, but I think with a little bit more support, hopefully, from the guys in the team who are a little bit further back might help him out. But we've got 8.5 minutes for them to try and set a lap time that maybe a best qualifying performance of the season from them and try and get their way up the team towards the front of the grid.
Yeah, one such team is, of course, Loser Racing. We ride on board with Andrei Boratovsky, who gets well on the curb, and it looks like the curb bit him there, quite literally. And the Loser Racing car is going to have to abandon that lap, which is a shame because Boratovsky did very, very well in Montreal, as I understand. Got into, was it the top 7? I think he was very annoyed that the broadcast didn't talk about him more, by the sounds of things. But we won't take it too personally, of course, will we, Darragh?
No, definitely not. But I think, I think there's going to be a lot of action tonight. I think at a track like Silverstone, where of course there is so much opportunity for overtaking. So I think we might see a few guys, quite a few that we have to talk about because there is so much action. But we'll have to see whether there are some echelons forming. Of course, in races like this, you see some drivers form little trains. We'll have to see if there are little trains that eventually form in the opening laps and that we see from the rest of the race.
Here's Thomas Smith then, of course, hoping to lay down a marker. Istvan Single has set a 24.6 in the first sector. Smith in the second sector has set a purple time of 37.993. So these are pretty competitive first laps out, and they're only going to get quicker as the 7 minutes of the session runs along into club. And the final couple of corners we go with Thomas Smith. This is where the second slows down, and you have to make sure you're set up perfectly for the start-finish line. Not just ending a lap, but starting a new one as well. Smith crosses the line, and that is only going to put him second in the order, actually, just behind Samuel Ivanov for Netrex, who has set a 128.5. So that's a pretty impressive first lap out, but I don't think that 128.5 is going to stand as the pole time, as we see a few more times filtering through for the likes of Silver in third, Zarov and the other valet. Looks like a Single is about to set the fastest lap, though. There we go. 128.3. So it didn't stand, just as I predicted. So it's easy to make those sorts of predictions. People will get faster as a safe one, I find, in commentary. As Mikanov sets a purple final sector, gets himself up to second there. So the first runs all looking pretty close there. Just a couple of tenths between the top 3, and then Smith right behind. So not much to choose between any of them.
Yeah, definitely not. And it's a track as well where there isn't necessarily much room to find and lose much time. Of course, a straight dominated, high-speed corner dominated, where the cars are generally flat out, and there aren't many braking zones here. So there's a little less opportunity for the times to have that kind of difference to each other. But Single, yeah, he's got a great lead from the bank laps. I mean, we're nearly halfway through the session already, but he has got about a tenth and a half, hasn't he, on Mikinov at the moment. Ivanov as well, doing well, and Smith. Those two times incredibly close to go. I think just under 300ths in it between them. But yeah, lots to look forward to. And I think that's Master as well, one of the ground effect cars, up in 6th place. So we were mentioning that they were looking for a couple more drivers to be up the field, and he's doing well at the moment.
Yeah, so all that I was sort of saying that Single was on his own. It looks like Master is very keen to disprove and contradict me, which is very good. I always love being proved wrong by a driver. And Harvick sets a purple first sector, it would seem. 24.6. So Matthias Harvick in his independent entry, trucking along very, very nicely here as we go through Magnus, Beckett, and Chappell, and just getting as wide as he can on exit there. 2 wheels on the grass, Darragh, as he opens the DRS. That was he wasn't leaving a whole lot of margin for error as we go see what his second split time is.
Yeah, definitely not. I don't think that'll necessarily help the time terribly much for Harvick there. But yeah, I think a bit of a Tony Kanaan moment there, if anyone gets the reference from the Indy 500, he's bouncing over the grass. But I don't think it'll gain him too much. He might have to go again. He might find that there's a lot of time that he can find at the end of that second sector. But he does jump up to P6 and goes on a 128.87. So that's not a bad time at all. And knowing that he can find that time, I'm sure he'll be very hopeful of making his way a little bit further up the grid.
Yes, and Harvick is absolutely buoyed because in Montreal he got his best result in FSR Academy so far of that 4th place, wasn't it? As we see Ivanov continuing to try and get that number 43 in Etrex onto the front row then. And he's been very impressive, especially compared to previous showings we've seen. So Ivanov has learned a lot, like cutting right to the inside and then right off track and potentially into the wall as well as the front wing shears off. So perhaps a little bit too ambitious there from Ivanov.
Yeah, I think he's got to find some time, but I'm not sure exactly how.
He's not going to find it there, Darragh.
No, I don't think so. But we can see Thomas Schmidt actually here. He's had a purple first sector, 24.52, which is incredibly fast, currently in P4.
Yeah, almost matched by Single on his current lap as well.
Yeah.
So once again, it's turning into a Schmidt Single battle for pole position at the moment.
Yeah, we'll have to see what their middle sector splits are, because only 200s in it in that first sector. We'll have to see through the middle if they can find anything. Schmidt at 37.9 in that middle sector isn't the quickest we've seen, but it also isn't too sluggish either. But I think Single, 37.8. So he is a little bit up, but not by much at all as they come through the final few corners.
What's it going to be then for Thomas Schmidt? The Dutchman powers towards the line. Can he get anywhere near the front row? It is going to be... It is on the front row, and it is only 600ths of a second behind Istvan Single, and that really shows with just 2.5 minutes left to go how tight it is. But Single is going even faster. Is he going to pull away? Yes, he is. Nearly 2 tenths now to the good ahead of Thomas Schmidt. So they're all up in the ante here. Miganov also goes even faster and is only 700ths now behind Thomas Schmidt. So really those top 3 positions, which is really where you want to start the race from, because it gives you such a great platform to work from no matter what your strategy is, being on the front 2 rows. It's so hotly contested. You can see drivers really absolutely pushing the limit here as we cut to Harvick, who is once again setting off and trying to improve on that 7th position. And interestingly, Alessandro Maggio has decided to do qualifying. It looks like he set his best lap on the medium tire, not the soft. So extremely unconventional there. I'm not sure what point Maggio is trying to prove, but certainly he has switched to the soft now, so it was just a timing error. I apologise to Alessandro.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would have been quite impressive if he set that lap time on the mediums up in P6, but I think Harvick will be looking for a nice lap time. I mean, he's gone quicker in that first sector than he did on his opening lap, and we know that on the exit of Magnus, Beckett and Chappell, he made that little bit of an error, didn't he, bouncing across the grass. We'll have to see where he can pick up the time. Let's see, middle sector split is just upcoming as he comes through. Does he make the same mistake twice? Not quite. Very much better on the exit there, and in sector 2 will probably reflect that. Yeah, a big improvement for him. 37.9 is definitely not a sluggish time at all, and he's going to be looking for the front couple of rows.
Absolutely. So where can he get the racing room? Is it just squirrels on the exit of Stowe there as he struggles to get the power down? Into club we go now, and now just the final 2 corners to go then. as we approach the start-finish line once more. And the time it's certainly going to be an improvement. How big an improvement for Matthias Harvig? 2 positions then. Up to 5th goes Matthias.
It's a good improvement, and I think he'd be pleased about that. Up in the top 5, definitely where you want to be for the start of this race. I mean, we're talking about Silverstone, a track where you get lots of groups forming in the race, and I think if you can just get yourself into those front couple of groups, you have a chance of winning the race. It's easy to make moves compared to other tracks here, especially compared to tracks like Gilles Villeneuve, as we were at 3 weeks ago. So I think it'll be important if they're in that bottom end of the top 10 to try and stay with the leaders, and they might have a chance to win because this is a tight grid.
Giuseppe Saracino, 3rd in the championship, gets himself up to 6th there in the dying seconds of the session there. So that's an important lap there for the SimSpark driver. Here is Maggio rocketing away. Can he improve on 8th position as he goes through Stowe into Vale and Club then? It's a crucial final seconds then for Alessandro Maggio.
It is, and it's going to try and put him up the order. Let's see, rounding Club.
Oh, no!
That's a big error. I mean, he's crossed the additional timing line, but that's not going to help him improve the time. And I think, he's coming to the pit lane there because that was not going to be an improvement right at the end.
Sort of sums up Alessandro's luck at the moment, or lack thereof, wasn't it? The rear just started to go there for the final corner, but Smith, on the other hand, has set a purple first sector, has not given up, trying to go for that pole position. Yet to start on pole yet this season, I believe, Thomas Smith. I think his best qualifying is still 2nd or 3rd, I think, from earlier in the season. But here we go, out through Maggots, Beckett's Chapel, onto the hangar straight we go. And we know he turns a lot of drivers going right to the inside so they can open DRS really early without worrying about spinning out. Because if you're still trying to turn on the outside, take the widest line you can, then potentially DRS will open. You're going straight into the wall, as we've seen happen to many an unfortunate driver in the past. But here we go then. This is going to be very, very close, Darragh, then. With just 1 corner to go. Don't do a Maggio. Don't drop it, Thomas.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, there are only 400 between them as they came through that middle sector. Can Schmidt find the time he needs? Yes, he's gone top of the times.
Wow.
I think Shingle's finished. He hasn't. It's 4,000th between them. So he's absolutely snatched it at the end of the session. Thomas Schmidt, a 128.191 beats a 28.195 to pole.
Wow, I don't think you'll ever see a closer qualifying session than that. And Thomas Smith will be pleased as punch because that's pole position secured for himself and for Super Venturi.
Definitely is, and I think he'll be over the moon with that one because it is a return to qualifying form for him, and it could try and pull that cap at the top of the championship.
So Thomas Smith picking up exactly where he left off at the end of the Academy race in Montreal. Top of the pile then, ahead of Istvan Single. Funny how 2 weeks later, not much has changed, has it, Darragh? But there we go. Single will line up just alongside him, only missing out by 4,000. So Grand Effect will be very, very eager to strike back in the race. Miganov will start on the head of the second row, ahead of Samuel Ivanov, who's very impressive for Netrex there. Harvig, similarly impressive in 5th position in the number 13, ahead of Giuseppe Saracino, who'll be looking to gain ground for SimSpark after a difficult event and a pretty promising qualifying. That's going to help his cause. Romeo Silveira will line up 7th, ahead of Alessandro Maggio, who just dropped it at the end. He knows he was capable of a faster lap there, and that's going to spur him on. Peter Knapp for Royal Blue will line up 9th, while Zaharov will round out the top 10 for Valley Esports. Then it is Marsa, who's going to start 11th, ahead of the ever-reliable Sophie Jones. Then it is Boratovsky, who will line up 13th, ahead of Thomas Andrium Harizo for Royal Blue, who lines up just ahead of his teammate Cedric Bill. Bredziak Luksak will start 16th for Royal Blue Evo. Then is Pavel Andrzejewski for Hyperion, who will start 17th, ahead of Ruben van den Hudding in 18th. Fabrice Morlato, 19th. Then Giuseppe Canzanieri, 20th for Team GG. Perseus Miram is going to start 21st, ahead of Jean-Michel Garnier. Then is Matthias Dabrowski for Hyperion in 23rd. Christopher Dekelage is going to start 24th for Competition, ahead of Mihaila Vincentovic, BRT Belgrade. Then it is not setting a time in the session. Lucas Viscott, Scott Flack, surprisingly, our 4th place man in the standings, is going to start 27th, right near the back, just ahead of Miljan Rakovic. So it sounds like Australian Scott Flack is having some technical issues that's stopping him getting into the server. So hopefully Scott Flack will join in time for the race, along with Lucas Viscott and the rest. But that is not the ideal way of starting your after a difficult time in Montreal where he crashed into Sophie Jones, admittedly no fault of his own, nothing he could have done because Sophie Jones was sideways on the track after a crash of her own. That is not really the ideal start to the race weekend. Oh, I say weekend, it's just a Sunday, isn't it, for Scott Flack?
Yeah, not ideal at all. And I hope to get into the session properly by the time that the race starts. We know he's got some pace on him and he might be able to fight his way through the field if he is able to get in. But with it being such a short season, only 9 races, missing one through technical issues is not going to be a driver's favourite thing to occur. But we see everyone out on the warm-up. Ooh, a little bit of lag there.
That is Scott Flack then.
Yeah, it was Scott Flack. I thought he was going straight off the track on the exit of the pit lane, but no, that's just a bit of lag.
And Flack, very, very tellingly, has immediately come out on the hard tyres. So starting at the back of the grid, I would suggest that's a good strategy because it means it's less reliant on you making up places in that first stint. You can go long, get the tyres to last, and hopefully if your pace is good enough, it can help you vault up the order. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of hard and medium tyres on the starting grid once it forms up, Darragh, because that's going to be the strategy of choice, very much so.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the differences in strategy might be interesting to see how they develop through the race. Of course, it can be quite good to stick in that DRS train when it does appear. So, maybe it might work out to do the overcut. It might work out to do the undercut, but we're just going to have to find out.
Absolutely. Lots to look forward to and find out, as you were saying earlier, Darragh, at Silverstone, of course. Such a high-speed, fast-flowing circuit, of course. 3.6 miles, of course. Including, and of course, as you say, changed from the old layout ever since 2009. But I think we're going to see quite some action here. It's really going to be another Smith single showdown at the front, but behind that battle for third, it's really going to be anyone's game with Miganov, Ivanov, and co. all slipstreaming one another and potentially trying to outsmart each other on the strategy. And as we saw last season in Academy went here, the two grand effects of Gianni Lianos and George Zalagianis, who now both move up to pro. They had a battle, as we see the grid forming up, for the win, and it ended up with Lianos tried to stay out on older tyres, do one less stop than Zalagianis, but Zalagianis simply caught up with about 6 laps to go and was able to get through. As the form-up lap begins, Darragh, and I think I'm going to take you through the grid very shortly.
Yeah, I've just noticed as well, just seeing that formation lap, that there's a big tyre change.
Exactly, so reminder of our grid then. Thomas Smith on his first ever pole position ahead of Istvan Singal on the front row. Then is Daniel Miganov in third with Samuel Ivanov in fourth. Third row is led by Matthias Harvig and Giuseppe Saracino looking to gain ground in the championship. Then is Romulo Silveira seventh ahead of Alessandro Maggio. What can he do today from eighth? Then is Peter Knapp in ninth. Dmitry Zaharov in rounding out the top 10 from Nandor Marza in 11th. Sophie Jones, she starts 12th, and there's a good opportunity for Sophie to get some good points under her belt. Andrei Bortowski will be 13th ahead of Thomas Andrew Harizer. Cedric Bill will line up 15th. Then it is Gresiek Luksak in 16th for RBR Build Evo. Pavlan Drudowski for Hyperion will line up 17th ahead of Ruben van den Hudding. In 19th, it's Fabrice Morleto for Competizione ahead of Giuseppe Canzonieri in 20th. 21st, it's going to be Persis Miriam that starts there for RBR Build Evo. Then Jean-Michel Garnier, 22nd. Matthias Dabrowski, 23rd for Hyperion. In 24th, it's going to be Christopher Dehilage. Mihaila Vincentovic will start 25th. Scott Flack, after missing qualifying, will start 26th. And then, hopefully, we've also joined by Miljan Rakovic in 27th and Lucas Viscott in the third ground effect in 28th and last position then. But certainly, all three of them can make up ground here, Darragh, because as we say, Silverstone, so many great opportunities to overtake, but also you've got to stay out of trouble because those first couple of corners, especially Abbey, it really bunches up into Village, doesn't it? So you really got to make sure you steer clear of the chaos if you look at Viscott bringing up the rear.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with 28 cars, similar number to what we see in the FIA Formula 3 Championship, and we all know how chaotic that can be on the opening couple of laps, so I'm sure that down into the Village, we may see a couple of cars, left, right, and centre all over the track, probably off the track as well. But there are going to be quite a lot of different lines taken, and those things as well. Those strategies. We have one driver on the soft, or I'm not too sure. But we have a lot change at the front with mediums and hards, and it's not really a consistent strategy at all.
Yeah, Rakovic, the only sole driver, I think, that might be gambling on the softs, but we'll see if the timing screen updates. Up front, though, the front row are both on the hard tie, and it's Miganov and Ivanov that are taking the gamble on the mediums, it would seem, as we see a little gap at the back there just ahead of Viscott. I'm not sure who that is, but hopefully we'll be able to get the starting light sequence underway in a quick succession then. Thomas Smith then in on the front row, the lights coming on now, and when they get going, Academy will be underway, as it is here at Silverstone then, and Thomas Smith gets away very, very nicely. It's almost 3 wide for third there, but Smith leads us. Oh, we see a car flying and somersaulting in the background. It's absolute bedlam. The royal blue flipping and flopping all over the place, but Thomas Smith not worried about that at all, as him, Single, Miganov make off, and it's Saracino that's really gained here, Darragh, up to 4th already.
Yeah, he really has had a great start. I'm really not sure who that was in the back, but that was quite spectacular. But Smith trying to defend on the way down into Brooklyn, but is that the inside of Miganov? I think it is on Sinjul, and he's got it. P2 already. It's a good start for Miganov in that Valley eSports car, but I'm not too sure where they keep it going. But there are lots of drivers at the back who didn't have great starts. There was a few collisions into turn 1, but that's a great start for Thomas Smith. He's up the road.
Yeah, I believe it was Romulo Silveira we saw flipping there, and it looks like Alessandro Maggio, the 2nd race in a row. His race lasts 1 corner and no further, sadly. So the Valet driver is out. But Miganov, as you say, brilliant start there on the medium, taking advantage of the fact that Smith and Single starting on the harder compound, so their pace is not going to be as good in this opening phase of the race. But certainly that medium tire is going to drop off earlier. So Smith, Miganov, Single Saracino, but I should say, all on the hards. They're expecting that that's the strategy to go on, and that the race will come to them. But for now, the mediums are going to be a big threat, and Miganov is going to try and take the lead here before too long, unless Smith can break out of DRS range.
Definitely, and I think Schmidt will try and maybe use Miganov to try and pull away from Shingle. Maybe if he can try and sit behind Miganov, if Miganov does attempt that overtake, he can try and pull away using the DRS that being second would provide him. But yeah, these front 3 look like they're a little bit away already from Saracino behind. I talked about maybe a few echelons forming during the race, and I think the top 3 are forming a little one just now. It's 3.4 back from Schmidt to Saracino. Currently, first and fourth, we do see Miganov to the inside, and he's already made that move for first. Again, Brooklyn's
made that look easy, and that was without DRS as well, Darragh. So that is very, very impressive by Daniel Miganov. Now he's got to sprint away and hope he can make this what's become the alternate strategy. Usually people starting on the hards would be the alternate strategy, as we see Smith desperately trying to just peek up the inside into Copse, but we know that doesn't always go to plan, as we see him just going off track on exit as well. So there we go. That's ideal for Miganov, not really ideal for Istvan Single, because now even in Miganov pits, he's lost a lot of ground to Thomas Smith then in these opening few laps. And in fact, Saracino is not far behind either. So we're about to see a replay of the start then. Let's talk through the absolute bedlam and chaos that's going to unfold here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great start, wasn't it, from Thomas Schmidt? As we see that royal blue car flipping into, and oh my word, there was absolutely, we didn't see most of this car. He's flying absolutely everywhere.
All these guys have gone into the pits as well. Harvick was involved in that too, which is very unfortunate for him, dropping a few places there, I think.
Yes, definitely. I mean, yeah, I mean, absolute bedlam in turn 1 and turn 2, as we see a front angle with Thomas Schmidt and Istvan Single not really worried about what's going on behind, but that is an absolutely gigantic accident.
Ivanov got, I think, collected by Silveira and Maggio there, and we saw Silveira just go flying as the physics engine did its thing. Well and truly, I don't think there's any other way of describing it. But yes, so even after the accident, it's so tricky to navigate the chaos and not cause a second incident, effectively. Here we go. This is going to be scary, Darragh.
Oh, my word.
Oh! So Maggio lags and Silveira just gets collected in there. You can't really be in between a car, so the physics engine just threw him out there.
Yeah, that is quite a spectacular incident. I don't think I have seen that or ever will see that again, frankly.
So the gap up front then, 8 tenths then between Miganov and Smith. Miganov has just set a 1:32.494, which is the fastest lap of the race then in a bid to escape, really. That's his goal right now. This strategy isn't going to work unless he builds a bit of a margin here, because once Smith and Single switch to the mediums later on, Miganov is going to be on the hards and therefore a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah, he will, definitely so. But I think he's just going to try and pull this gap as much as he can. But Thomas Schmidt is sitting nicely behind Miginov here. I mean, he's only 6, 7, 8 tenths behind at the moment. Single a little bit further off the back, and Saracino a bit further. We see this train now for, I think this is for 8th, yes. Oh, no, for 7th with
that's Peter Knapp leading
the train, yes. But this is a little bit of an interesting train, just to see who can get through in these early stages. All apart from... Oh, you see someone going wide. Was that Harvick at the back? Or
I think that might have been Viscott, who started dead last and has avoided the chaos, got up to 12th, and now... Actually, in fact, Viscott overtakes Andrzejewski in all of that. So the Hyperion having an even worse time through there. As we see, a little move up the inside from Ruben van den Hudding as they go through the loop there. But Peter Knapp just about goes wider, gets the run he needs. But now the DRS is going to be wide open here, and the Dutchman is going to come through on the inside.
He is into Brooklands again. We've seen a few overtakes here, haven't we, so far today, but he is taking this one. 7th place now for Van der Hudding. He tries to make his way further up the grid, but there are a couple of medium lines in front, so it might take a couple of laps for them to start slowing down as their tyre wear starts to affect them.
Yeah, Nando Marsa really giving the two Royal Blues of Bill and Nat a hard time here down in 10th. So Marsa, full marks to him from 11th on the grid, has gained a position, has got his teammate right behind him. So although they've lost the second position in the race, Grand Effect have actually got 3 cars in the top 11, I should say. So in the Teams Championship, this is actually going quite nicely for them so far. And speaking of the leaders, remember that statistic at the front? I said that we've had 3 different winners so far. Miginov would be a 4th, and it would be our pole sitter Schmidt once again finishing in 2nd if it ended like this, Darragh. So it seems once again the streak, there's something through trial or error. I don't know what's causing it. Maybe that massive crash at the start had something to do with it as well. But it just seems the racing gods have decided if you're on pole, you must finish 2nd, and somebody else has got to win.
Well, I mean, Saracino might have put a curse on. He hasn't had a pole yet this season, but yet he's 3rd in the championship, only 8 points off the lead. So he might have put a curse on pole position earlier on in the season, but he is very much happy with where he is now. I mean, that incident at the start means we are already down to just 20 drivers off the start. I mean, 28 lining up on that grid. So there really has been, 22 there at the bottom there, 22, but that is a few down on what we had from the start. Was that someone going wide? No, I think it's Bill fighting with Knapp just in front. Knapp not having the best of times, is he, in the opening stages?
No, and it's not really ideal for the Royal Blues to be fighting each other. They really would be hoping to keep up with Ruben van den Hudding and the Netrex ahead of them. But instead, they've dropped off that train now, and the more they squabble with each other, the more it plays into the hands of Nando Marsa and Grand Effect then. So, but Bill here, Cedric Bill, has really got to get a move on or let Peter Knapp just sort of do his thing in front of him.
Yeah, he definitely has. And we just have to wait and see how this all progresses. I mean, we're only on lap 5 of 32. It feels like we're actually a little bit deeper into the race, but we're only on lap 5. But Schmidt doing well at the moment to keep with Miginov, who's on that softer compounded tyre. And I think if he can stay close for as long as possible, he has an increasingly better chance of taking the victory.
And speaking of which, he was actually a 10th quicker than Miginov on the previous lap, 1:34.0, whereas Miginov set a 1:34.1. So are the mediums starting to be go into the crossover point where the mediums and hards are setting very, very similar lap times here? And certainly we're seeing that play out at the moment, but Zaharov and Boratovsky will be looking at Miginov's lap times with mild interest themselves. Of course, Zaharov, of course, teammate of Miginov, and Boratovsky as well, both of them on the mediums and running in the top 10 as we see defensive driving there. Is that Zaharov under attack from Boratovsky there? That was very aggressive there, and a very, very late move using the DRS at the end of the Wellington straight there.
Yeah, it is, but Boratovsky looks very keen to get through with his racing car. Currently, maybe in towards Cobb's Corner. He's got to go for the outside there. I don't think that's going to work out, especially when you are nearly or totally a full car length back, but he might try it once again into Stowe. But yeah, a little bit under pressure there, but of course his teammate is Miginov, and he is doing a very good job at the moment, currently in the lead of this race. So Valley eSports currently having a good day, and I don't think Darragh will want to give up many positions to ruin that.
Exactly, they are the reigning teams champions, of course, in Academy, albeit by a single point last season over Grand Effect, but still, that was all they needed. And Zaharov, interestingly in this race, the more he holds up Borotowski and Ruben van den Hudding, he's sort of creating what could turn out to be a gap for Miganov to pit into. But of course, he's holding up all these harder tire runners behind. So that is really going to play into Valet's hands here. They're using both drivers effectively. But it depends what kind of gap Miganov can pull before the mediums start to drop off in terms of lap times.
Definitely so. And it'll be interesting to see when they do start dropping off. Of course, lap 7 of 32. If you're looking at a strategy halfway, you might be looking at the tyres dropping off around lap 12, lap 14 times. We'll have to see, or the pit stop around that kind of times. We'll have to see when the tyres do start dropping off in terms of pace. But at the moment, they seem to be holding up nicely. Zaharov still under attack from Borotowski, who is not quite yet able to get past. But Van der Hudding on that hard tyre is catching to these two.
Yeah, Borotowski looks absolutely relentless here. But the problem is, again, the more moves he tries that don't work out, the more Van den Hudding is going to just keep gaining and closing in. You see those trains of cars starting to form behind. So Zaharov is very much the cork in the bottle here. His pace doesn't need to be particularly exceptional to hold on to fifth at the moment. It would seem 1:35.9 last lap for Zaharov. So not having DRS of the car in front, it really does cost you to a certain extent here around Silverstone. Being is such a high-speed circuit. Van Hudding here, he senses opportunity knocking here. Can the Dutchman potentially gain 2 positions if he picks his moment here? Because Borotowski could get frustrated if he gets held up for too much longer.
Yeah, and I think he might try and pick his way through. He's not had the best of starts to the season so far, currently in 22nd in the championship. So the possibility of a top 5 finish here will be very much an incentive. I think that's wide as well from Zaharov. Maybe the tyre starting to slide across the surface of this Silverstone track early in this race. Only lap 8, nearly a quarter of the way through. Ooh, bit of a snap from Thomas Schmidt there. I don't know if that was a true snap or a bit of lag there, but he doesn't look necessarily comfortable on the back of Miganov. But that DRS is helping him for now stay ahead of Single.
Yeah, and of course, running right in the wake of the Valet. In fact, he will want to clear as soon as those mediums start to drop off and the hards become the better tire to be on. He will want to just sweep through, because otherwise there's a threat from behind of Single, who's kept within 1.5 seconds of the pair of them. Not quite within DRS range, but it could become that if the battle continues. And Borotowski gets a little twitch on through left field, but it recovers himself nicely. And now it looks like he's more defending from Van den Hudding rather than attacking Zaharov ahead of him. So this has worked out beautifully so far for Valet, but Schmidt is really starting to put the pressure on in the battle for victory.
Yeah, definitely. And that Super Venturi will not be wanting to hang around. He's not hanging around. He's going right around the outside of Stowe if he can make that stick. And I think he has made that stick. It's a great move there. He noticed that Van Single is starting to catch the two of them, and he decided that now was the time to make the move at the end of lap 8. Just a quarter of race finished when they crossed the line, just about now. And Thomas Schmidt takes the lead of the race.
So there we go. I was talking about how well it was going for Valet, and then that happened. But
yeah.
But there we go. Not over yet for Miganov, of course. Could still undercut these guys if he switches early to the hards. But he also wants to make sure he has enough life in the tyres to get to the end of the race. And we see through Village and the loop, the rear's starting to really complain on that Valet. So I wonder if he's pushed the mediums a little bit too hard in the opening couple of laps. And now he's well and truly paying the price, because Single is getting right into DRS range now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's only a matter of time now for these mediums to really start dropping off. But we see Van der Hudding still behind Zaharov and Borotowski at the moment. Knapp is also gaining this. You can see a bit of a train forming with that Borotowski around the outside. He looked for it momentarily, but he didn't go for it in the end. We go back to the battle as they come through Luffield.
Well, it looks like he did go for it.
He did go for it, but he's not quite got it done. Van der Hudding is going to watch the two drivers in front of him go side by side through dots.
Yeah, so Zaharov goes wide and leaves himself a little bit vulnerable there, but sweeps in across the outside. And in fact, it's Borotowski who gets sucked in at Kops there into that mistake, has to get out the front, and that creates a beautiful opportunity for Van den Hudding, who picks his moment at exactly the right time to swoop through into 6th position. And now it's just the case on the harder tyres of pulling away and closing in on Dmitry Zaharov.
Definitely, and that's going to be the task. We do see some fighting behind. I think that's Knapp trying to get past Borotowski now as well, and he does. P7 for him now to the inside. Borotowski can fight it around the outside. They're going to go side by side contact. Oh, it's very close into the Belgian chicane.
That was very, very stubborn from Andrei Boratovsky there. He was not about to be breezed out of the way by multiple cars in the same lap. Peter Knapp ended up finding himself just sort of a little bit of contact, minor contact made between the two wheels. Interestingly, by the way, Matthias Harvig, after getting caught up in the chaos in the first lap and being held up by it, has recovered up to 10th, past the two ground effects of Master and Viscott, and is now challenging the Royal Blues of Bill and Knapp. No wonder Peter Knapp was so keen to get past Boratovsky as Matthias Harvig senses his moment up the inside into the loop. He goes, and Cedric Bill does not see that one coming at all. Beautiful move by Matthias Harvig.
And he's doing well at the moment. P9 currently for the independent driver as he comes in towards Brooklands and Love Field, but P9 is a good spot for him to be in at this stage of the race. Of course, those medium runners, a few of them in front, will have a couple of issues. He may be able to pick up a couple more positions. But Van der Hudding now on the back of Zaharov, and we'll have to see how quickly he can get through the Valley eSports driver.
While we've been watching this, Single has cleared Miganov for second position in the previous lap, I believe. So the gap is a couple of tenths there now too. And in fact, Miganov's last lap, 1:35.0. Nearly about 6 tenths slower than Single and 7 tenths slower than Smith then. So it's once again, I fear, turning into a two-horse race with the two hard runners of Smith and Single starting to peel clear. And Saracino is surely going to catch up to Miganov on his hard tyres before too long as well. In fact, there... there we go. That's Van der Hudding clearing Zarov. There we go. So that was a beautiful move through Stowe. And look, Zarov isn't done with him yet, as we see Boratovsky having to defend from Peter Knapp. And now Harvig wants to go round the outside of him, but he's not going to have enough space to pull that one off there. There's a little twitch at the rear once more as he gets onto the curb, but gets a beautiful run here. But where does he go? There's no room into the first corner, Abbey. And Matthias Harvig has to set himself up for Village in the loop once more.
Definitely, Boratovsky had a moment in the club corner which allowed Knapp a little bit of a rush, but he's going to run the outside. Can he make it stick to the inside of the loop? I'm not sure if he can, but he's going to try it on the exit. He's going to have the run towards Brooklands. Oh, a little bit of contact on the exit as well, and the drivers behind Massa, Viscott and Bill will be looking to make a move as well. But as they come down nearly side by side, I think it's Harvard just about getting a move done. But these medium tyres now really starting to struggle. Saracino will also be trying to get past Mikinov in the very near future, and he has.
Wow, there we go. Oh, that's Peter Knapp almost spinning the rear tyres there behind Matthias Harvig. And I was just about to say, such beautiful driving for the pair of them going side by side through Aintree and the entire Wellington straight. The two Royal Blues go side by side, and it's Cedric Bill that gets out ahead. And now the two ground effects join the party. Wow, it just keeps going. And now into Magnus and Beckers we go, Darragh.
Yeah, we mentioned at the top of the show that there are lots of places here at Silverstone to make the move, and I think we are very much seeing that right now. On that minimap, is that Mikinov that's gone off the track there at Stowe? I think on the minimap on the bottom right, that dot seems to have had a little bit of a stop there, and he has dropped about 9 seconds off the back of Saracino. Maybe there was a bit of an incident there as we see Boratovsky into the pit lane, and Mikinov as well come in.
But yeah, I think there was a mistake. Great spot there, Darragh. So let's see if we can spot it on the replay then. So here we go, on the DRS, trying to come back at Giuseppe Saracino into Stowe, curring up the inside, and there wasn't going to be enough space or grip in there. I think that was a little bit... Oh, and he's lost the rear wing too. So that's really fatal to Daniil Miganov's chances of finishing on the podium today, because that's going to be a long repair job.
Yeah, and that's really not going to be ideal for him whatsoever. I don't think he will be overly pleased to have seen that, and we can see him currently in the pit lane. Valley eSports, I mean, you were talking about how well Valley eSports were doing, but that has not materialised since you've said that. So I don't think they'll thank you for that one very much.
It was a good start to the race, but unfortunately it's somewhat fallen apart, much like Miganov's rear wing, sadly. But Zaharov still holding on to 5th then on his mediums, but they're looking pretty second-hand at this phase. Harvig is all over the back of him like a cheap suit as they go through Copse Corner, although he just backs out so he doesn't get too suckered into the weight. Like we saw with Boratovsky, you can just go too deep into the corner, have to back out to make sure you actually make the corner, and then find someone else slipping up the inside of you.
Definitely, and I think it's difficult to be racing, especially with some of the physics on rFactor 2. It can be a little bit different to other platforms, but you know, that's just what we've got, and that's what the drivers are going to have to deal with and try and adapt with. But Harvig on the back of Zaharov trying to make the mistake. Van der Hudding can't believe his luck, currently up in 4th place, as I think Zaharov now does peel into the pit lane, and that releases this train of hard runners on towards the top 5.
Yeah, if I was Van den Hutting, I'd be a bit worried about Harvey because his progress through the order has been nothing short of metronomic, and we've still got another, how many laps would that be? About 19 laps to go, isn't it?
Yeah, 19 laps, a long way to go. So he's got to do a lot of work, but he's done a lot of it so far already. So,
Lucas Viscott,
yeah.
just through Village. Just absolutely tried to get on the power before the corner had finished, which is, I know, ambition before adhesion, I think, as they say.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you mentioned, because you mentioned eSports had a very good first quarter of the race. I think the second quarter of the race is definitely in favour of ground effect, because they have got 3 drivers in 2nd, 7th and 9th at the moment, which is going to be a lovely haul of points for them if it were to finish this way.
Yes, but Single, crucially, he wants to catch up to Smith, and that's not happening at the moment. Smith just keeps gaining a couple of tenths per lap, really getting the most out of those hard tyres. So what do you think the strategy is here for Superventure? Is Smith going to pit first, or is he going to run a bit longer, let Single pit first and just respond to that?
Yeah, we'll have to find out. I mean, I think these hards must want to take these hards a lot longer. I mean, Zakharov going off the soft suggests that he isn't interested in that one-stop strategy, because I can't see him getting to the end whatsoever. But those hard runners, I think, if they're going for the one-stop, they'll have to see how long those mediums have lasted. And I think that they've got to go another, 5-6 laps maybe to try and get these tyres to that window. But, that's what they're going to have to deal with here. Viscott, we see, he might try and get to right behind his teammate and get past Bill, but it'll take a little bit of work. And we'll have to see whether he can do it over the next couple of laps.
The only team, by the way, Darragh, that's made the medium tyre work seems to be Hyperion, with Andrzejewski and Dabrowski running 10th and 11th. And they've been running medium since the start, although shout out to Christopher Delahage, who's also done the same thing in the Competition, down in 15th position. But I think that's a good effort from Hyperion. That shows that those cars, their setup they've got on the moment is very kind on its tyres, it would seem. Because their lap times not been... 1:35.8, 1:36 actually, so not particularly quick, as we see Delahage actually bail and get off the mediums. So there we go. Lap 14 was about as far as they're good for. I think maybe the Hyperions are stretching them a bit far here to try and make their strategy work.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they are teammates would either suggest that they are doing that for the strategy in spite of the pace, or they're doing it because of the setup that they have got, but it remains to be seen. I mean, that gap between the top 3 and Van der Hutting is massive. I mean, it's more than 15 seconds between Saracino and the Dutch driver in 4th place, so it's a bit of a gap at the moment, and we'll have to see whether he can close it at all in the second half of this race. But I think it looks like it's a fight for the front 3 at the moment. Saracino closer to Shingle than Shingle is to Smith, but of course 17 laps to go, we'll have to see who gets who.
Yeah, and look at Nandor Marsa just getting on the brakes into Vale and Club, and you saw how close Cedric Bill got there as he rode on board with him. But of course on the run out, the ground effect got back on the power, sharpish, and there was no opportunity there for the Royal Blue to make any magic happen there into the first corner. But Alex Albon style heroic, sadly. But interesting, we see the top 3 in the championship in the same order: Smith, Single, Saracino. And with Scott Flack, I believe, unable to take the start then with his connection issues, as Andrzejewski pits in the Hyperion. That means that we've really got, as we say, top 3 in the race, pulling a long way clear of anyone else, but also in the championship, they're going to do the same, aren't they? So it's really down to a 3-horse race, I think, for the remainder of the season, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And we do have a short season. I mean, this is round 4 of 9, so we're nearly towards the halfway point of the season. And if we're looking at a gap for these top 3 of around 50 points or so to 5th place in the championship, with Scott Flack still hanging around there, despite not being able to take any points here this evening, they might have an incentive not actually an incentive, but just the ability to make it a 3-horse race in the final few races of the season. But yeah, top 3 at the moment. We'll have to see if they stay in the order that they are, but we will see. I think this is Bill. Is this going for Marsa? Yes, it is. He's not able to.
Oh dear, 2 drivers trying to go for the exact same piece of tarmac come together at Stowe and end up spun around, and that is disastrous for Marsa and for Cedric Bill there. We're just talking about how well it was going for ground effect. Cedric Bill had other ideas, it would seem, and that was a big shame there, because that felt a little bit unnecessary.
Yeah, it did. We're going to see a replay of it, I believe. And I think, yeah, it was a little bit ambitious, but was less space given. I mean, you come into Stowe, just a little bit of contact, difficult to see from that angle, but I don't think they'll be either of them too pleased about what's gone on there.
Yeah, was Cedric far enough alongside? He braked and suddenly dropped back a bit and only had one wheel alongside the rear wheel of Nando Massa. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a racing incident, but I sort of feel like Bill maybe should have done the smart thing and waited a bit longer and maybe tried the next lap with a better run. But there we go. It's too late now. So, and I'm sure Viscott and Peter Knapp will be breathing a sigh of relief then as we switch back to Harvick, who was swapped onto the mediums very early, actually, and is now all over the back of Zaharov, who set the fastest lap of the race in his pursuit of Boratovsky. So this is quite topsy-turvy, but Harvick on the mediums, it looks like the softs are struggling already because Harvick has just got so much more pace than Dmitry Zaharov as he goes off track at Cobbs.
Yeah, I don't think that soft was the right option for the Valley Sports driver. He might be in shortly for maybe another set of mediums. I can't see him wanting to go hard now, especially after seeming like the strategy is to keep off of that hard tyre. But yeah, Harvick doing his best to get past the Valley Sports driver, and Boratovsky as well is not far in front either. So with three different compounds on, this could get a little bit interesting.
It could, and I think the front runners always bow to the outside. Goes Matthias Harvick into Vale, now into Club he goes, and he's got the overlap. I think that's a beautiful move once more for Matthias Harvick to use the superior grip on the medium tyre on the a couple of laps worn soft. But oh my goodness me, round the outside goes Zaharov into turn one, and somehow makes it stick. That was very, very aggressive and a little bit borderline. They're still touching side by side as they go into loop, and Zaharov is spun out there.
Yeah, I think that was well, I think it was the reverb, but I think there was a little bit because he pushed Harvick so far to the inside. We'll see it from his perspective. Yeah, he turns a little bit right well before the corner, and I don't know if there was how much contact there was there, but it was enough for Harvick to get through and up into, I think that is 9th place now, behind Boratovsky, so he's got work to do consistently. Yes, he's up into 9th, but Boratovsky, his next target. But with all the incidents that have happened, I mean, Viscott will be pleased to have seen the waves parted in front of him, and he's now up into 6th place as well. He can try and chase after Knapp in 5th and Van der Hudding as well, not too far up the road. But we are seeing these groups starting to form as we get into the second half of this race.
Yeah, Van den Hudding, I think he'll be particularly worried about Harvick's pace then. So Harvick, despite their contact on that last lap, 134.7, Van den Hudding 135.0. So a lot of the guys who started on the hards are thinking now might be a good time to switch to the mediums, and that pace from Harvick is really going to be the marker, the indicator. He's the guinea pig essentially that they're all going to be watching the lap times of in the next few laps.
Yeah, definitely. We mentioned that we thought the mediums could go 13, maybe 14 laps as well. So maybe this next is when they come in. Boratovsky very, very wide out of the final corner at Club, and Harvick is easy as you like up into 8th place.
Yeah, I believe Boratovsky is another one who started on the hard. Oh, no, he didn't. He's actually only been on them for 6 laps there, so he's really struggling to get grip out of them then compared to the mediums. So it seems like a very easy way to let Matthias Harvick through. He's certainly had to fight very, very hard against Zaharov, and then Boratovsky didn't put up any resistance at all. This went completely off track at the final corner. Not intentionally, of course, no. But Harvick released to go on his merry way.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how well his medium tyres hold up by the end of the
Personal
race.
best on that lap for Harvick, 134.0.
Yeah, which just shows how fast he's going at the moment.
They're lapping faster than the leaders.
Yeah, definitely. So he is really on his merry way to try and get towards the top 7. Of course, those guys in front will have to pit off of their hard tyres. I believe all of them have not yet stopped in this race so far. So
up until now, because Saracino has come in from 3rd. So SimSpark are the first to pull the trigger, and they made a brave strategy call in Bahrain. Oh, and he's struggling to get into the pit box there. He misjudged it, stopped a bit too short there as he switches now onto the mediums, but that's going to cost a crucial second or two. And could that be decisive? Where is Saracino going to filter out into the pack? Van den Hudding goes through. Peter Knapp is surely going to come through. There he is on the outside as well. So that's going to put Saracino down in 5th position there.
Is maybe Luca Viscott as well try and find his way through, but no, I think Saracino is ahead, and with those medium tyres he should be able to get up to speed quite quickly as well. But
But now the pressure's on Single, isn't it? Because the danger is he could get undercut here.
Yes, he could. But also, you've got to remember that the time between Schmidt and Saracino was around 7 seconds or so. So we might be seeing Schmidt and Van der Hudding maybe coming out. Schmidt coming out near Van der Hudding if Schmidt pits before the driver currently in third position. So we'll have to see if that materialises or not. But Shingle still doing well at the moment, still tracking Schmidt. But yeah, I think that undercut is a little bit of a danger now for Shingle.
And we are seeing 2 cars that have been lapped so far. So I think we're going to see a few more. And there we go. Single goes into the pit lane then. So that means it is going to be Van der Hudding that moves up to second, at least temporarily. And now we wait to see what are the sector times of Saracino. Purple middle sector, 39.7 set there. So he's absolutely pushing here. He's definitely going to cut the gap to Single. Can he get ahead here? Single marked his box perfectly. Oh, and there into the pits goes. I think that was Peter Knapp there. So that releases Saracino then for the final couple of corners then, as Van der Hudding pits too.
He does. So Schmidt, I think, is going to be one of the only drivers left out. I think he is indeed the only driver left out on track.
Oh, there we go.
To the pit lane.
So Single has got out ahead then to the tune of about 3 or 4 seconds then. So it's worked out pretty well for ground effect, all things considered then. That could have been a lot worse if Saracino had been able to set a much faster lap time. That was a 1:42 out of the pits from Saracino. Harvick, by the way, has just set a 1:33.0. So that was an incredibly quick lap time there, nearly 2 seconds faster than Thomas Schmidt in the lead of the race. So I think Schmidt has surely got to respond to this before Single gets into his pit window.
Yeah, he really does. And I think it's going to be important for him to pit soon. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the time, I mean, Schmidt's got that 26-second gap to anybody. Of course, he hasn't pitted. But I don't think that'll be something he will be able to forget in a while, because a 26-second gap is definitely not something to be shy about. But he's coming to the pit lane now.
There we go. So it looks like he didn't hit the pit lane speed limit line over the speed limit. So that's very good. You'd be surprised how many experienced drivers that catches out in FSI. He goes into the garages and you can see all the retired cars, sadly, on the right-hand side. Very quick stop there. Actually marked that perfectly, did Thomas Schmidt. So the sole remaining Super Venturi trundles out the pit lane, and surely he's going to come out with at least a 4 or 5 second lead to Single once he gets up to speed, as he does, going back from the undulation there in the pit lane, and no sign of Single whatsoever. He's actually 4 seconds ahead, as I said. So there we go. We should see Single just pop into frame there. He's that little black dot on the horizon. So Super Venturi, this is going to perfection at the moment for Thomas Schmidt then. And surely now it's a matter of holding on for the final 11 laps. You see 3 wide there. That's Peter Knapp. And there's that Andrzejewski and Zaharov all squabbling.
Yeah, I think it is. As they come into the first few corners, big fighting going on for the back end of the top 10. There's 4 guys. Oh, it's that. Oh my, I think that was Viscott jumping over the curb. And I think that is big contact with Zaharov. And yeah, I saw Viscott going across the grass there. I don't think Zaharov
might be a good idea for Viscott to give the place back there.
Yeah,
penalty for the next race potentially, or even this one. There we go.
I think the technical term for that was a little bit argy-bargy. I think we may see it from...
Not the first time Zaharov has done that in this race, getting side by side with someone, but this time I think... Yeah, a bit of a late move there, and Viscott got completely caught out on the brakes there. Just couldn't get it stopped in time.
No, but yeah, that is a bit of an instant. Yeah, very late move there.
He commits very early and then can't get out, can he?
Yes, exactly. And when you've got to move further over as well whilst braking, it's a little bit difficult. So yeah, Grand Effect not necessarily having the cleanest of races, are they? Viscott having that moment, Marsa having the spin before, and who's that going off? Oh, I think that's one of the competition cars.
Christopher Deliage, who's down in 18th position then, so he's got the exit of Aintree. Very wrong indeed there, but it still continues on then. So we're seeing everyone is back on the lead lap now, so actually I think the likes of Jean-Michel Garnier and Thomas Andrew Harris will breathe a brief sigh of relief. Van den Hudding actually sets the fastest lap of the race on mediums, 1:32.1. Very, very impressive there. Single has set a 1:32.3, so he's cut the gap to Smith to 3.5 seconds, but It's going to have to be an almighty final stint for Single. And he did look a little bit more comfortable in the mediums than Smith, so he might be able to close in. You never know. But Smith surely just got to manage and limit the damage that ground effect can do here, and hope that Saracino can get involved too, because if Single is having to fight a battle on two fronts, then Smith can potentially pull away.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, he's pulling away nicely at the moment, nearing, topping 5 seconds now. For the lead of this race, just over 10 laps to go. But yeah, Master and Viscott now back together again, granted 6 seconds apart, but they are 9th and 10th, bringing home crucial points for that ground effect sim racing team. I mean, of course, in the championship, they've got a game on Super Venturi, and with Scott Flack not taking any points, Thomas Schmidt is their only source, but the source could be giving them 30 points. They've got to take advantage of every point they can and every position they can in the last 10 laps.
Absolutely then. So this is where the pressure really starts to build then. Smith is on course to try and break the curse of the pole sitters not winning and be the first repeat winner of not just Academy, but I believe of all 3 FSR series so far this season. We've not had any repeat winners as Harvick enters the pit lane then. So that's a Harvick on a 2-stop then. So this is going to be very, very interesting to see where he filters out, because he'll have so much pace. What tyres is he going for then? It's another set of mediums.
Yes, it is another set of mediums, so he should have absolutely blistering pace in the final 10 laps, which is all that we've got left in this Academy race. But we'll have to see where he pops out. He pops out ahead of Viscott and in 7th place, which is a good spot for him to be in. I mean, he might try. I mean, he might be looking at the timing page saying Nat Brolatovsky, maybe Van der Hudding, but he is a long way up the road. But yeah, there are definitely a few drivers within range of Harvick, and we'll just have to see how far he progresses.
It sets fastest lap of the race now, 1:31.5 there. So the Super Venturi absolutely flying then, and suitably in response then to Single. Anything you can do, I can do better, says the Dutchman. But yeah, Boratovsky, shout out to him, because on the alternate strategy, starting 11 laps on the mediums, now he's done 11 laps on the hards, and he's in 5th place, highest of all those who started on the mediums and have had to do this alternate strategy. Andrzejewski is another one down in 9th, just behind Viscott, I think. Marsa all over the back of him, as we see in the background. But yeah, Harvick, I think, definitely going to be one to watch, because he can afford to push those tires a little bit more than Knapp and Brandon Hudding ahead of him. And so Peter Knapp, I think, would be especially worried, because he pit about 3 laps ago for his mediums. So they're going to wear... We saw how fast they wore in the first stint then. So Harvick, you can't afford to abuse him too much, but certainly he'll be feeling confident here.
Yeah, definitely. And he's shown the pace, especially in this in the middle third of this race. And he'll have to see whether he can translate that into some good pace in this final third. But he's got everything he has under him to try and do that as well. That gap at the front stabilising isn't around 5 seconds, but Saracino looks like he's gaining a bit on Single.
Yeah, Saracino's had a pretty quiet race, to be honest, but I think he will be very, very happy if he can finish on the podium after finishing down in 7th in Montreal. Was a very disappointing showing for the SimSpark driver. The Italian, I think, very, very keen to get his championship challenge back on course, because he's not led it, I think, since Bahrain, where he won the season opener. He finished, I think, 3rd in Spain. And then in Montreal, like I said, having an off weekend, so it certainly needs to return to form to keep those hopes alive and stop Smith and Single from disappearing up the road in terms of points. But they certainly could potentially stop Single from disappearing up the road in this particular race as well, as we look at Andrzejewski pursuing the round effect of Viscott. It looks like Marsa has made a late pit stop. He's doing the Harvick strategy and is pit for another set of mediums. So look out for Marsa trying to gain positions to get back into the top 10 then in these final few laps, as well as Matthias Harvick. Harvick, by the way, last lap for Harvick was 1:41 out of the pits, but he set a 25.4 in the first sector and a 39.5 in sector 2, so faster than everyone in front of him. So Harvick, definitely a man on the move.
Definitely so, and I think he will be trying to get after at least Boratovsky and Knapp, who are very close together on track at the moment for 5th and for 6th. Here they are, actually. He's snapping that royal blue racing car, and just behind Boratovsky as well. So they are going to come under some pressure, you'd expect, from Harvick. You can see him back a shot there, just coming into the village, and there as well. So lots of fighting, I think, on the horizon. But even with the front guys, finished as it is, there'd only be a 17-point gap between Schmidt and Saracino in first and third in the championship, which isn't massive. So it is still, bridgeable for Saracino with 5 races to go if he was 17 points behind. But I think the consistent point finishes will help him by the end of the season.
Absolutely. Interesting comments in the chat, by the way. A lot of speculation about Super Venturi's setup. A lot of people think, Thomas Schmidt is using the setup that Jan Grankvist did for him earlier in the week, essentially, as we see Peter Knapp swarming over the back of Boratowski, who's starting to struggle just a little bit on the harder tyres. 1:34.8 last lap. There's Peter Knapp 1:33.9 and Harvick 1:31.9. A personal best lap time there, only about a couple of tenths off of Smith's best lap time of the race. But here we go. Knapp is well in the DRS range and needs to clear Boratowski before he is caught by Matthias Harvick up the inside. He's left just enough space and he's ahead before they reach Stowe Corner. So there we go. Well judged then by Peter Knapp and Royal Blue.
Definitely so, and that'll give him a little bit of breathing room as Harvick is absolutely barreling down on these two. He's gained another 1.5 seconds on this lap alone, I believe. So Harvick really is pushing the boundaries of what he can do with that race car. Boratowski in that loser racing car is losing out currently. Knapp, Harvick probably very soon, and 5th to 7th will lose him some points, but he is having a good showing at the moment. Behind Harvick there's a bit of a gap, so he might be safe from Viscott in 8th by the end of the race.
Yeah, and we saw what happened last time. Speaking of loser racing, Boratowski didn't make it particularly hard for Harvick on the previous occasion they crossed paths in this race. Boratowski gets a little bit of DRS, which will help him just keep Harvick a little bit at bay for a few extra corners perhaps. But the grip is not quite there on the hards. He's been on them quite a while, more than about 13 laps now. So Harvick, I think, is going to make mincemeat of him. But hopefully Boratowski doesn't just go off track. Hopefully he tries to put up, is able to put up a bit more of a defense on this occasion to show what he's made of. And I'm sure Harvick is relishing the challenge. Look at the way he's eating up the track in front of him.
Yeah, he really is. He is gaining he's gaining some hand over fist on Boratowski at the moment, frankly, on that hard time. You can just see through Magnus and Beckett and then into Chapel the amount of time he is gaining. Corner
here we go.
Corner, and here he comes. I don't think there's even a conversation to be had. I mean, the debate was incredibly short, and Harvick is up to P6, and Knapp is going to be very much in his sights at the moment. And just also, I think, for some clarity, perspective, if you look on the minimap here, we're looking at Thomas Schmidt. He's coming down towards left field. You can see on the minimap there are a few dots there, but that purple and yellow dot at the back coming down the Wellington straight are 2nd and 3rd. And then there's a massive gap back to Van der Hudding in 4th. He's coming through Village, and then another massive gap back, which just shows how much pace these top 3 have had in this race.
Yeah, on the previous lap, not the one just completed, but the one before, Saracino was 0.6 faster, actually, as we rode on board. Is this Thomas Schmidt, or just going side by side with the Royal Blue as it goes into the pit? Oh, it looks like there was a little bit of a connection issue there for Thomas Schmidt, so there might be some late jeopardy after all for our pole sitter then, but it looks like he's got it under control now. But that is very, very concerning. Super Venturi already lost one car due to connection issues, can't afford to lose another. So these last 5 laps, everyone in Super Venturi has got their fingers crossed now for Thomas Schmidt. He's got a very, very comfortable gap to single, but can he even finish the race? That is going to be tense, nail-biting times now.
I mean, it would be absolutely gutting for Thomas Schmidt if he was to not be able to finish this race after leading. I believe he's led from start to finish. He pitted last,
well,
so
no,
didn't relinquish
led
the
the
lead.
first couple of laps, but yeah.
Oh no, yes, you're correct. Thank you. Yes, I forgot about that. That was a year ago. Mikinov led those laps. He's down in P16 now, behind his teammate of Jones at the moment. But yeah, it has not turned out for a good day for Valet eSports. And I think to be fair, I think you are the only person who can be blamed after that absolute curse at the start of that race.
Well, it's not the only curse going on, as we saw with Smith earlier, that potentially there's still the pole sitter's curse in this championship. But anyway, Harvick has caught right up to the back of Peter Knapp and is now pressurizing him for all he's worth. Desperate to get back into the top 5 here, Harvick, on a very, very impressive run. Wants to follow up his top 4 in Montreal with another top 5 here in Silverstone. He's going to try and look to the outside, but he's going to sensibly set himself up for the DRS down the Wellington straight. And Peter Knapp, those tyres looking a bit knackered at this point, to use a very technical term. And Matthias Harvick is going to go around the outside then into Brooklands, but Peter Knapp goes a little bit deep forces Harvick to cut back to the outside for Luffield. And once again, the Royal Blue driver making Harvick go the long way round, making it difficult for him. So some good racecraft there from Peter Knapp.
Definitely, but I think Harvick will remember how he got past Boratovsky just over a lap ago, and see the amount of time he's gaining thanks to the slipstream down towards Copse Corner, and he'll know with that slipstream, with the DRS he's about to pick up, that he should be able to get past Peter Knapp and up into P5 at the end of the straight at Stowe. So he may just be waiting, biding his time, but here he comes.
Oh, another breast run out of Chapel though, and you see Peter Knapp once again trying to break the toe as the DRS is open. Harvick is going to run out of road here into Stowe, but can he set himself up for the exit to try and move into Vale and Club? Here we go then. Peter Knapp defends the inside. Harvick goes, fair enough, I'll just sweep all the way around the outside. And Peter Knapp almost makes contact there, but just leaves enough room for the Racing Room independent driver of Harvick to get through. And that was some intense action there, and Harvick judged it beautifully.
Yeah, definitely, and it was a move that we've seen a couple of times in this race, but not as much as some other overtakes. As we see a couple of the Royal Blues now down in 17th and 18th. A lap down, I think, now for Andrea Maharasoa. Sorry, I read
Thomas.
That earlier. Sorry?
Good old Thomas, the Madagascan
Thomas,
driver, yes.
I can only apologise. But yes, the two Royal Blues down there, not having the best of times compared to Knapp, currently up in 6th. He's the breadwinner for that team currently today, but Thomas Schmidt is the one and only Super Venturi, and he is bringing home all the bread that he can to that team as it stands.
Yes, and certainly looks like Super Venturi are going to start their Silverstone FSR day on a very, very high note. But here is Marsa trying to make a move on more later. Remember, Marsa was one of the ones who pit late on for mediums and is trying to get back into the top 10 then. So certainly Zaharov not too far up the road ahead of him, but Andrzejewski might be a bridge too far then for the ground effect driver. But I think Marsa, considering the difficulties he's run into in this race with it being literally barged into the side by one of the Royal Blues, I think he would be very, very satisfied with 11th place if he can get that far. But here is Smith with only a couple of laps left to go. 8 seconds to the good with Single now only 1 second actually ahead of Saracino. So tyre wear becomes crucial now, because Saracino looks like he's got a little bit of life left and is trying to overcome the ground effect. Here they are.
Yeah, we've got to remember also that Saracino did hit first, didn't he, of the top 3 to try and get that undercut on Shingle. So those tyres, he seems to have dealt with them incredibly well to be this close to Shingle, this close to the end of the race. But with only just over 2 laps to go, it's going to have to be a very, very quick move made. He can't afford to sit behind Shingle for very long, but Shingle will know that this is important. It's important for the team. It's a good race for ground effect in their fight against Super Venturi this season, and he won't want to give up second very easily.
Yeah, and certainly won't want to give Saracino a sniff in the Drivers' Championship either. But it's been a good week for Saracino. If anyone was watching GPVWC FS1 or saw, he subbed in at the EP Lab team and got a podium on his debut, and then 4th in the reverse grid race as well. So he's certainly been quick in other categories at Silverstone, and that practice is really paying off here as he challenges Single with just another lap and a half to go, isn't it? So this is going to be a very, very tense finish, and Single has just got to try and hold on here and make sure he doesn't make any crucial mistakes here right at the death that could let the SimSpark driver take advantage. Yeah,
definitely, and I think it's important to just be consistent, just try and hit your apexes with only 2 laps to go, because I think Shingle may get a little bit flustered. You can see him defending a little bit to the inside into Brooklands, knows that Saracino is there and knows that he might have to throw a defensive shape 1 or 2 more times before the end of this race, but with a lap and a half to go, he's currently in P2 and he's going to defend that with everything he has.
Here we go. Saracino's got a little run into Copse. Is he going to make the move? Not quite. So he's going to wait sensibly for Hangar Straight as Single goes a little bit off track, but only briefly, so he won't get any track limits violation for that, I don't think. So it should all be good, as we see Andrzejewski has lost out to Cedric Bill, I think, in the battle for 8th, but there's a little bit of movement as Marsa's finally got up to 11th. That's what's going on and he's now actually finding Zara up for that top 10 position as here comes Saracino to the outside. And again, running out of road, he's going to try and set up for Vale and Club like we saw Matthias Harvig do earlier, but the rear's crying enough, actually. And Saracino, who's done well to nurse the tyres this far, is now asking just that little bit too much of them as we go to the final lap.
He is, and there's only the one lap to go. Yeah, exactly. So he's just going to have to try and find the line somewhere.
Or hope the DRS helps him out,
to make the move. Yeah, definitely. He'll have a couple of doses of it by the end of the race, but he's just sliding through turn 1 and 2, and it won't be comfortable in that SimSpark car.
In the words of Darragh Thacker, yeah, definitely. But here we go then. So, just 2 DRS zones left to go. Here's the first one for Saracino, and Single has got to be driving on his mirrors here, and it immediately cuts to the inside, and Saracino says, oh, I'll have a little bit of slipstream, don't mind if I do. Here we go, once again closing up, but it's going to be difficult to make a move once more into Copse. This is where it's very traction limited out of left field. This is where Saracino will try and take advantage, try and push Single into an error, but Single is wise to it, and into Copse they go. Saracino is nowhere near as close as he was on the previous lap, so he's probably going to survive. 13.5 seconds. The car in front of Saracino just about avoids the gravel there, actually, through Copse as he goes off track there. So I think that definitively, almost definitively, is the end of the battle. And now we're going to focus now on Smith, who's about to take the checkered flag in only a few corners' time.
And he hasn't on that many seconds on Single, hasn't he? It's 13.9 in 14 now. So he's had a massive minus in.
Absolutely. It's been a peerless drive then from Thomas Smith then as he crosses the line right about now to take victory at the British Grand Prix for Super Venturi. A peerless drive despite losing the lead at the start to Migunov. He kept his head, was able to pull a massive gap and was not headed. Single will cross the line in second position for ground effect, beating Saracino. So our top 3 in the championship round out the podium. Then it is going to be Ruben van den Hudding, who had a little bit of a quiet race later on, but is going to be very, very impressed. So I'm impressed. I'm not sure how he feels about it with that 4th position, which he takes now as we see Dabrowski trying to make a late challenge on the softs. But Massa, I think, has just got too much life in those tyres, and Zarov is going to try and desperately hold on to that 10 position. So this is a great fight too. Harvig takes top 5 ahead of Peter Knapp, and Boratovsky is then going to be the leaders of those on the alternate strategy down in 7th position ahead of Bill and Jajewski. But how is this battle going to play out? Zaharov, only a few more corners to go. Will Massa make a late dive? Not quite close enough. And Dabrowski in turn is going to push him all the way across the line as the trio congregates together. It's going to be Zaharov 10th, Massa 11th, Dabrowski 12th. So they will all score points. The points go all the way down the field, actually, but certainly going to be Zaharov scoring more points than Massa and Dabrowski.
Yeah, and we see Migunov and Jones, the 2 Valley eSports drivers, coming home 14th and 15th. I mean, Migunov led the race sliding through Jones to the line, but Migunov, he did lead the first couple of laps, of course, but has only finished in 14th, as we see Schmidt celebrating his victory.
Trying a few experimental lines there. And he can afford to do it because the race is one truly over, and he, for the 2nd time in a row, he is the victor. The curse is broken in Academy, ladies and gentlemen, and it's Thomas Smith that breaks it. And is he going to break his front wing? Yes, he is. There we go, to celebrate. Maybe that's the tradition now. When you break a curse, you get to destroy your car. We've seen quite a bit of carnage, especially on the first lap, it must be said. But Smith was not part of any of that up until the race ended, of course. But certainly an immaculate drive, and one that extends his championship lead.
Definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if I find that crash on Twitter at some point later today. It was absolutely mahoosing.
Yes, I think Romulo Silviera, I think it was Matt Tucson in the chat, he said to Romulo, "Oh, are you done being a pilot or something? Airplane pilot now." Which I found quite hilarious.
I mean, the height he gained on that was extraordinary, frankly. 10
out of 10 for the high jump, but no points in FSR, sadly. So, confirmation then of our finishing order, and our final results hopefully will follow now, as Thomas Smith then taking victory in the number 24 Super Venturi for the 2nd race in a row. And for the 2nd race in a row, it's Esteban Single that is runner-up, and keeping him very honest in the championship, and holding Giuseppe Saracino, who returns to the podium at bay in his SimSpark number 16 in 3rd. Ruben van den Hudding takes his best result of the season so far in 4th, and that is really going to be very encouraging for NetRex, of course, for their driver. Mattis Harvig will take 5th for Racing Room, and I'm amazed, by the way, that nobody has signed Mattis Harvig to one of the bigger teams, because maybe just the independence was one of his strengths, because he just seems to keep going from strength to strength every time I see him. But another top 5 goes his way. Peter Knapp is going to finish 6th ahead of Andrei Boratovsky, leader of those on the alternate strategy, but Loser Racing, perhaps with a few strategic tweaks, could have prevented the loss of a couple of positions there. Cedric Bill will take 8th ahead of Pavel Andrzejewski. Then it's Zaharov, who only narrowly rounds out the top 10, holding off Nandor Master, who of course was involved in that incident earlier on. Mateusz Dabrowski in 12th for Hyperion. Then is Fabrice Morlato. Daniel Miganov, of course, the leader, crashed out with that incident with Saracino, lost the rear wing. What could have been? It's a missed opportunity, really, for Valley Esports, but he does at least beat Sophie Jones, who survived the opening lap melee despite getting absolutely caught up in it. One of the several drivers that had to pit, along with Perseus Miram, of course, who finished just behind. Then is Jean-Michel Garnier in 17th. Thomas Andrew Harizer in 18th. Lucas Viscott ended up 19th in the end, so not quite sure what befell the ground effect driver there. Christopher Delahage rounds out the top 20. Then our non-finishers: Grisiek Luksak, Samuel Ivanov, who had such a great qualifying, and it's a shame for him. Mian Rakovic, Mihailo Vincentovic, Giuseppe Canzanieri, Romulo Silveira, who we saw go flying, and of course Alessandro Maggio, who was part of that incident too. And let's not forget, of course, Scott Flack not being able to take the start and losing ground in the championship as a result. So that's all from Academy for today. Of course, we'll be back for Imola on the 6th of August next month, so make sure you tune into that. But we're not done at Silverstone yet, of course. We've still got FSR Pro to go, followed by the World Championship at the end of the evening, which is, I'm sure, going to end things on a superb high note with some world-class drivers fighting it out for the big prize. But, of course, for Academy, though, Darragh, let's sum up, give your final thoughts on that race. Great drive by Smith, but lots of action behind, and close finishes everywhere you look.
Yeah, lots of action through the field. Good results, particularly for Matthias Harvig and Ruben van der Hudding, who move up quite a way in the championship. I believe Harvig's up to 5th in the championship after that result. But Schmidt, Single, and Saracino showing their dominance, each with their 3rd podium of the season, and they've only each missed out once so far, and it's the 2nd time that all 3 of them have shared the podium after Barcelona this year. So they are showing their dominance at the moment, but they are pulling away slightly from the rest of the pack. So a great result for them, and yeah, it's a setup for another great race to come in Imola.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for joining me, Darragh. Thank you very much to Cas Rietveld on the broadcast cameras. By the way, make sure, if you're interested in Formula Sim Racing, please visit our website or contact us and get onto the Discord server if you'd like to take part yourself. Thanks once again to VCO Esports, our broadcasting partner and sponsor, for supporting us. And that's all from Academy. It's Thomas Smith. It takes his 2nd win away for Super Venturi to extend out that championship lead. But we wait now to see what's going to happen in the Pro Championship, where I'm sure you're going to love hearing from Darragh again, who's, I'm sure, agrees, done a brilliant job today. So thank you very much. I've been Edward Hunter. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols, and welcome to Highlight Sports.
Who's going to break Lasix world title?
For Mike Gosby! Oh, he's done it! And look at these 2 go! He's going to do it! His first victory! The World Championship is done. What a race it's been!